Welcome to Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson.
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And today we'll be talking about Shanghai Express from 1932, which is a movie that we have been trying to find for a long time now. And we were going to do it, I don't know, a few weeks ago we were going to do this movie and we realized it's literally available nowhere. So we canceled that episode and we ended up doing Wizard of Oz instead. Good substitute. But, this is a film that was nominated for 3 Oscars, 5th Academy Awards. It won Best Cinematography, was also up for Best Picture and Best Director. Connor, explain how you found this movie, where you got it, and that day where you're like, holy shit, we have it.
Yeah. So when you had put Shanghai Express on the schedule, I was like, ooh, I don't know that movie. Let me look this up. And it sounded intriguing. And I'm like, all right. And then I think the day came to record the previous week's episode. And I looked up the availability and I'm like, oh, this movie doesn't exist anymore. And we were both we're trying to find any streaming service that had it. Could we buy it on Amazon? And unless we wanted to shell out $60 for the Marlene Dietrich, Joseph von Sternberg Criterion collection, we were shit out of luck. And we were just like, all right, fuck it. Let's pick another 30s movie. Wizard of Oz came to mind. We did that. The next day, I went to my local Half Price Books and was like, yeah, I'll check. And lo and behold, $14.99 Shanghai Express. And I was like, no way. I was like, this got to be a remake or something. And I looked it over and I'm like, nope, 1932, Marlene Dietrich. Yep, this is it. And I bought it. And then as we were getting ready to do it, I was getting ready to watch the movie and I put it into my PlayStation and it said unidentified disc. And I was like, no, no. And I broke out my region free player and I was like, please God. And it worked. And I'm like, thank you. So I texted you like, do you have one? You're like, nope. And I'm like, well, all right, here's mine. We're doing this. So yeah. Here we are.
Yeah. Incredible. So you told me that on Wednesday night, we're recording this on Friday night, Friday the 13th, in fact.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Here we are. What are we doing? I feel like we're inviting dark spirits right now into our lives. On Wednesday night, you were like, yeah, you told me about how, oh shit, it's only playing on a region free DVD player. I still haven't bought one. I don't know why. I should have one by now. There's been plenty of times where I've looked up online, like, okay, I'm going to order it now, and I just haven't gotten it. And then my older brother recently was like, you know what? I'm going to buy you one, probably for your wedding. So I was like, all right, I'll wait for that. Then you came by on Thursday. You came by where I work, and you dropped it off to me along with the movie. And then obviously I watched it Thursday night, last night, and I was pleasantly surprised with how solid the movie is. It's aged well as far as Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd and all these different things. Like, people still like this movie. It's just hard to find. Yeah. And it's one of those gems that from the early 30s, a pre-code film, that if you can get your hands on it, like I would recommend it, even if you have to pay the $15 or whatever to get a DVD. I think it's a good piece of work. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. It's a cool premise about some train passengers that are held hostage by this like wild warlord during the Chinese Civil War. Like, fuck yeah. Just a cool idea, cool story, well executed. I'd say, in my opinion, there's some issues with the casting, but like overall, everyone does a good job. I think Marlene Dietrich, she's great. Clive Brooke is great. Anna May Wong is awesome in this movie. I really enjoyed all the performances and the dialogue was cool. There's some good bits of the score. So I had like a hard time picking awards for it. And I ultimately had fun. It's an hour and 20-minute movie that's basically like a war thriller, I guess is what you call it. It's good. And I think we both were kind had that, you know, that surprising element of when you watch an old movie from the 30s or 40s, sometimes it just feels like every other movie that came out. And this is not the case with Shanghai Express.
I was very glad that this turned out to be good, considering the lengths I had to go to get a hold of this damn thing. And I'm happy that I own it now and I don't have to look for it anymore, because I would watch this again. This was an entertaining film.
Yeah, I would show it to people who doubt this era of film.
Yeah, this is a trailblazer. You could tell I saw there are scenes in this movie that I've seen in later films that are definitely emulating this movie. And I love when we can find a foundational film that, establishes so much for what'll come after. And this definitely felt like one of those movies.
Oh yeah, that's one of the most annoying things I do in conversations about movies is kind of rave about what's happened in the past and how much importance it holds on things we're watching now. I that's my favorite thing to do when it comes to movies. And sometimes I can get carried away and be like, what? You don't like Citizen Kane? And people are like, yeah, I thought it was fine. And I'm like, fuck you. It's like some people it's just not for them. And like, I have to get over that. But it's these movies that are essential to what we see today. I think that's like massively important as a fan of the art, of the craft. I also love movies that take place in like one setting. I've always adored that. Some of my favorite movies like that trope. And I remember the first one I saw where I was a teenager. I was probably 13 or 14, maybe, I don't know, maybe a little younger. I'm not really sure. It was somewhere in middle school. And I remember watching Reservoir Dogs and how that movie takes place in like a warehouse the whole time. Not the whole movie, but a big chunk of it. And a lot of the important scenes are in that warehouse between all the, Mr. Orange and Mr. Pink and all these different guys, Mr. White. I fell in love with, look what you can do with a room, and as I've gotten older, I fall in love with movies that take place in specific settings. And this movie is very much using a train to kind of show you these people that are, held hostage, and the anxiety starts to build up, right? And you feel it as an audience member, you feel it. And I think that's a really impactful way to kind of just slap your audience in the face and be like, you forced to sit here as well. And because when you watch movies, chances are you're sitting down and you feel like you're almost in the room with them. It's very cool.
Yeah, I like the setting is such an important part of the filmmaking process. You have to have a place that feels real. You have to have a place that matters to the context of the movie. And when it's one finite location, the movie takes on almost like a play feeling. And I think that's really cool. For me, I think the earliest movie I can remember seeing that is The Thing. With Outpost 31, Antarctica, just nowhere to go, nothing, no way to call for help, just you, the people you've come to trust, and this alien creature that's absorbing them. And it's, that sense of isolation is so important to that film. I think those kinds of films are great.
Yeah. And then with trains, specifically, before I even watched this movie, I knew, Shanghai Express, it's probably going to be in some kind of vehicle. And sure enough, it takes place on a train, a good chunk of the movie. And I thought it was an opportunity to do something like really interesting with the top 5 to open up our show here. It's a difficult top 5 and kind of, if you really want to get technical, kind of vague, but I want to do top 5 train films, meaning movies that take place on trains. And, I did some research before I sent you like, hey, let's do top 5 on train movies. I was like, let me make sure there's enough. And boy, oh boy, are there enough, I'm excited to go through these because, I personally picked 3 movies that are very much train movies, and they involve a train very heavily. And then 2 of my movies are kind of like, there's a scene that's really important that takes place on a train. I just really like the movie. I left out some movies that I love that also have a scene that's on a train. I just want to have some fun with this top 5. It's not definitive. It's not some fucking, we're not doing anything historic here. We're just having some fun and kind of recommending movies almost. And I think I want to recommend these movies more than the other ones I left out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's trains. I mean, it's a fun little subgenre, like subgenre that is just very specific. And I think the more specific you get with these, I think the more fun you can have. And I like that. I like that we're experimenting here with just trains. I think that's a cool way to start.
Yeah, and Shanghai Express like nearly made the cut for me. I thought it was a very effective movie and one that kind of defines, a specific subgenre like train movies very well. So it was close. I'd say it's probably my top 10 if I were really picking all train movies. But my number 5 is definitely a personal. So I'm gonna let you start first. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about these. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's some personal picks here. My number 5 is a film that doesn't quite get talked about enough anymore because it freaked a lot of people out in 2004 because the animation's weird as fuck, but I don't care. The Polar Express.
Yes, one of my favorite Christmas movies. Yeah.
This movie's endearing and fun and, just a delight, and it's loaded with Tom Hanks, and that's never a bad thing. And it's just about a kid who doesn't quite believe in Santa Claus anymore and is picked up by this magical train, the Polar Express, where the conductor takes these kids to meet Santa and reinvigorate their Christmas spirit. And the adventure is just getting to the North Pole. The whole movie pretty much takes place on this train and on top of it with the weird hobo ghost. It's fun. And the music is beautiful. It's the movie that feels the most like Christmas to me when I watch it in December. There's something about this movie that just goes right to my heart. I can still hear the fucking bell. I have not lost my Christmas spirit. I know that. And yeah, I love this movie. And this was the first one I wrote down.
That's really cool. I certainly thought about this one. I got to see this. The last time I watched this movie, like straight up all the way through, was at this outdoor screening that was at this huge hotel here in San Antonio called the JW Marriott. And they did this giant, outdoor screen. There were like, hundreds of people there. It was really cool. And it kind of just took me back to when I saw it in theaters with one of my older brothers and my grandma. We were quite young when this movie came out. So it hit me pretty hard as a kid. And, Tom Hanks, that voice when you hear it, the conductor, just puts you right at home. So yeah, I love Polar Express. I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's this animation feat, but the story is lovely and gives you that vibe, like you said, of Christmas just perfectly. So that's a good. I figured you'd have that.
Yep. What do you got?
My number 4 movie. I feel like on yours at some point. I know you love. We've talked about it. I think it's got to show up on Filmgazm sometime soon. Maybe in the holidays of this year. That's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 1987. One of John Hughes' best screenplays, one of his best directorial works. John Candy and Steve Martin, these two guys just going through this half cross country thing. They're going from New York to Chicago, and of course things go wrong over and over. And you got Steve Martin, who's the serious business guy that's wearing a suit and has the briefcase, and John Candy's the guy who sells shower curtain rings and is like completely out there, big bumbling fool. And it's just a match made in heaven. It's comedic gold. And of course, Trains and Automobiles is like, yeah, I gotta have this movie. It's the only movie that I have that has trains in the title. and it had to be here. I love this movie. I've loved it for a long time. It was one of the first comedies my mom wanted to show us as a family when I was younger, when I was a kid. She's just obsessed with this movie. And my parents my parents are big movie fans, but when I was a kid, they weren't, itching to show me a lot of stuff at a young age. We, grew up going to church. We grew up going to, me and my brothers went to private school, and they kind of, I wouldn't say the word sheltered, but they didn't just expose us to a lot of stuff as parents. They kind of let us find it, which is very much shaped who I am as a pop culture fan now. And I'm grateful for it. I love that I've kind of just found my own niche, because sometimes your parents can play a heavy role in like what you care about and what you watch and what you listen to. I've kind of just had to figure it out on my own. But Planes, Trains is one of those gems that my mom actually showed us and was like, this movie's funny. I used to watch it all the time during the holidays with my parents and my family. So I'm going to show it to you guys. And it's just kind of stuck with me ever since. I think it's fucking hilarious. And I try to watch it like twice, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, that kind of, that part of the year, November, December. So love this movie.
$5 in my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago.
Yeah.
I love this movie to death. Did not make my list.
Wow.
And specifically because I think the train segment specifically isn't a huge part of the movie. So I
not at all. Not at all.
But I'm glad you included it, because I love this movie to death. I could talk about it forever. It's such a wonderful, delightful, funny as hell movie.
Yeah, this is a buddy like vehicle cross country movie, almost the equivalent of something like Tommy Boy, where it's like, or Dumb and Dumber, where it's two guys on the road figuring it out. Like what a simple, easy plot, but it can be movie magic, and this one is. My favorite bit is in the plane, the classic monologue of, "I'm the real article. What you see is what you get." That's great. That's my favorite bit. Yeah,
I love that. It's endearing. I think my favorite bit is in the terminal, when they're sitting across from each other and they're both looking at each other like, "I know you. Like, where did I see you?" And Steve Martin imagines John Candy in the cab window just being like, "Oh," and realizes, you took my cab.
You fuck. Yeah.
The whole bit is like, it introduces these guys so well to each other. And that's great. We're definitely going to do that this November.
Yeah. I think it's time. This is one of the classic, for me, comedies that isn't, it's like an hour and a half. It understands what it is. Its awareness of itself is the best part about it. And the best comedies of that era, that's what they were about. So yeah, had to have it. Number 4, what do you got?
Number 4, going considerably darker. One of the coolest sci-fi epics of the 2010s, Snowpiercer.
Ooh, that's my number 3. Okay.
This movie is fucking wild.
Yes, I loved Snowpiercer. Yeah.
Such a brilliant, just, sci-fi epic. I love the whole idea of, the rich are in the front and the poor peons are in the back, and just the fight to get to the front, and just seeing the different stages of this train and how many cars there are devoted to dumb shit that the rich are just doing while the poor are all shoved in the caboose. It's wild. Like when they find out what the gelatin snacks are, like, oh my God. It's a fantastic movie, incredible cast, and like possibly a secret sequel to Willy Wonka, if you want to take that route.
Yeah, I want to take that route. Yeah.
Such a great movie. Definitely was going to make my train list.
Yeah, this was the first movie I thought about when I was like, okay, let's do train movies. It's obviously not my number 1 or anything, but it's literally a horror, action, whatever. It's a genre movie on a train that's frightening at times because of just what's going on and what like these people realize as time goes on, and has one of the coolest cast I've ever seen in my life. Chris Evans, who, like, in my opinion, I mean, he's amazing as Captain America, but he needed something like this to show, I'm a good actor. I'm not just playing Captain America. I'm really good at this. Jamie Bell, who this is his best role ever by like hands down for me. Tilda Swinton's amazing in this movie. John Hurt, Ed Harris, Octavia Spencer, and my personal favorite is of course Kang Ho Song, who is one of Bong Joon-ho's go-to guys. Snowpiercer, I think, is closer to Bong Joon-ho's masterpiece than I will want to give it credit for. I think, of course, Parasite was this kind of monumental wave of a movie that came out and people were like, holy shit. And then it won Best Picture. And, it gained even more attention. And it's great. I love Parasite. But Snowpiercer is like right there. And Bong Joon-ho, The Host is my personal favorite of all of his movies just because it's right up my alley. It's a monster movie. But Snowpiercer is like some of his best work. And I really hope people like keep seeking it out. I think it's a movie 50 years from now could become this iconic genre film from, the early 2000s, early part of the century. So I'm excited to see how it ages. And yeah, man, I had to have this in my top 5. It was something I penciled in right away.
Yeah, this is long overdue for a rewatch for me. I haven't heard the best things about the TV show. I don't care.
Fuck that. I don't give a shit. You already have a 2-hour perfect story that has a great ending. So just like leave it. Like fucking just leave it. Fucking TV, man. Can't stay off movies. Dicks. So annoying.
Damn. Yeah, well said.
It's so annoying, man. It's like, and even Parasite, they're like, let's make a TV show about this. And even Bong Joon-ho is like apparently involved with that. It's like, can we just let it breathe?
Apparently, like it's gonna be in like fucking California. Like it's gonna be an Americanized Parasite, which is just no. The Korean caste system is so important to that movie that losing that is gonna torpedo this thing.
Yeah, I'm just out on so many TV shows. People are like, have you seen Severance, directed by Ben Stiller? I'm like, I'm sure it's great. I just don't really care. Don't really have the time. Yeah, people do that all the time. There's just so many shows out right now that are high quality, and that's great. That's wonderful. Sure, great for those creators and people who have jobs, but I'll take Snowpiercer over that shit any day.
Yeah, I got shit to do. And I'd much rather devote my time to films. It's, an hour and a half to 2 hours out of my life. I can handle that. I'm not going to commit to a multi-series just for the sake of it. I don't want to do it anymore.
Just to pass time. Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking for TV love, go to a different podcast because we shit on TV so much. I mean, yeah.
We've each got like our 3 or 4 shows. But that's it. Like, I'm not looking. It's I'm all friended up. I'm not looking for new people. Like, I'm good.
My circle is closed. Yeah, yeah. That's great. So that's Snowpiercer's your number 4, my number 3. So we'll go to my number 4, which is a movie that when I saw in theaters, I don't think I quite knew what I was seeing. I don't think I understood the intensity of this kind of filmmaking. I don't think I understood what went into it. I'll admit, and I have no problem admitting stuff like this. I'll admit, in 2020, or at the end of 2019, it's the end of a decade. A lot of podcasts, a lot of websites, a lot of different things were doing top 10s of the 2010s because it was coming to a close. And one of my favorite podcasts ever, The Big Picture, I've referenced it many times on this show, hosted by Sean Finney Dobbins. They brought on Quentin Tarantino for an episode, and they did Quentin Tarantino's top 10 movies of the 2010s. And he talked about a little film called Unstoppable from 10, which is directed by Tony Scott. And I was like, what? That movie? That Denzel and Chris Pine, just kind of B grade movie? And, then I listened to him talk about it. I listened to him talk about Tony Scott, and I was like, okay, he's right. Tony Scott is a fucking freak of nature. Maybe I should revisit this. So I revisited it, and I was fucking blown away. I was like, oh my God, I completely missed. I was paying attention to the drama of it and the just kind of the acting side of it rather than the athletic filmmaking that was going on with Tony Scott. This guy who just is a total freak and has, 30 different cameras going on at once so he can watch all of them after a scene and be like, that's the best shot. That's the best shot. A lot of filmmakers, including Quentin Tarantino, they have their shot. They know what it is. This is what it's going to be. This is where my camera's at. This is where my eyes are. I know this is what I want. But Tony Scott is one of those monsters who's like, no, I want to encapsulate as much as I can and then choose what's best. That's a whole another art that I really appreciate. I like both. I love someone who knows what they want, and is just gonna go for it. But I also really like someone who's like Tony Scott, who's like, maybe I didn't see something, maybe my eyes are wrong. Maybe the eyes over there are better. And that's so cool. And Unstoppable is a great example of that. Plus, it's just a fucking exciting movie about a train that's fucking going fast as fuck. And these two guys, Denzel and Chris Pine, have to stop it. And it's just great action, great stuff. It's not one of my favorite movies from the 2010s, but when I think of train movies and I think of, thrillers that involve people trying to stop something that could destroy a lot of people's lives and destroy a lot of infrastructure, like that's Unstoppable is one of the ones I think of. And Tony Scott, True Romance is like one of my very favorite movies of all time. So he's always had my heart with that. But I like that he has different things in his bag, and Unstoppable is definitely a movie that I think needs to be reevaluated altogether.
I've not seen Unstoppable. I got to get on that. I've heard good things about this movie, and I love that Tarantino singled that film out as one of his favorites.
Yeah, he talked about that, and then he went from talking about that to like The Social Network, and you're like, dude, this guy, I love this guy. I love this guy to death because he's not above anything,
No, he's got fuck all to prove. He's Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I mean, he is above everything, but he's not. The way he talks about movies is he's a fan. He's just a fucking fan, and I've always loved that about him. That was a really cool episode. I need to go back and re-listen to it because that was right at the tail end of our last normal movie year, I would say. 2019 before COVID, and it was a great movie. It was a great movie year. Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage Story. These great movies came out that year, and I would love to go back and listen to it because I thought it was like an interesting timepiece with a guy who just had a movie come out that is one of his masterpieces, in my opinion, talking about movies from the decade. A guy who made Django and The Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood all in the same decade. So it was cool. It was a really cool episode.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I value his opinion. I know he's a little slimy, but he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's earned the right to be slimy. He hasn't been Me Too'd yet, which is frankly kind of surprising. And I'll, until there's like proof that he's a monster, I'll continue to support him. I think he's just weird, but I like what he does. And when it comes to film, I think he's got pretty good judgment. So I definitely think Unstoppable is going to be exciting. I'll definitely watch that film at some point. I'm not that well versed in Tony Scott beyond True Romance. So he's a director I really have to start paying attention to.
Yeah, well, he passed away in 2012, so shortly after Unstoppable came out. He's just a guy who worked a lot, and did TV shows and documentaries and produced stuff, and he also had his own solid skill as a director. And I really dig that about him.
Oh yeah, big time. Unstoppable. Yeah, I'll throw that on my list.
Unstoppable. Yes, please do. Let's see. So that's my number 4. We know my number. So what's your number 3?
My number 3 is not technically a train movie, but the entire film is about getting to a train. And that is the 2007 remake of 3:10 to Yuma.
Great pick. How about this one? Great pick.
This is the first Western I ever saw. And it's, to this day, one of my absolute favorites. Christian Bale versus Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is this notorious outlaw. Bale has been hired to help escort him to the 3:10 to Yuma train, which is going to take Crowe to prison, a prison he's probably going to escape from. So the whole time you're just feeling this fruitless endeavor of like, even if they get there, it's not going to be, it's not going to be worth it. And throughout the movie, Crowe starts to realize that, Bale's a good guy. He just wants what's best for his family. He's not worth killing. And there's like a complete change of heart in Crowe over the course of this film. And once they actually get to the train, it's like, oh shit, who is this guy now? Like, who is really our bad guy in this movie? And it's such a great character study and an awesome road movie. And in the end, a pretty badass train movie. And definitely, one of the best remakes I've ever seen. Yeah, totally epic, awesome movie.
Yeah, this is a fantastic pick. I also think it's probably my first Western. You know, we were 12 when this movie came out.
Yeah.
And I still remember the first time I saw this and just being so fucking excited, you know, just it was one of the first times I saw that kind of mano movie star versus movie star, you know. This is Russell Crowe, of course. He's already a very well established guy, and Bale is coming off of being Batman. It's right in between, you know, Batman Begins, fucking, you know, of course, Dark Knight's 2008, so this is 2007. Just, you know, like, for him to be able to do the, you know, the Prestige and this in between that is like, fuck off, you know, just fuck off. Like, Christian Bale, I'll stand by. I think he's like one of the best actors of the century. He's put together such a cool filmography. And James Mangold, the director, there's just not many guys who have that run that he's had.
I completely forgot Mangold directed 3:10 to Yuma. God damn.
Yeah. The guy's a fucking freak. Ever since Girl Interrupted 1999, Walk the Line 2005, you know, he did Logan in 2017, Ford versus Ferrari. Like, the guy's just a superstar. And I've listened to him talk a lot, and I've listened to him talk about 3:10 to Yuma and Ford versus Ferrari, these movies he gets obsessed with a story. Mangold's approach to movies is find something I don't know about, learn about it, and make a movie about it, and then be kind of done with it. Like, throw yourself into it as hard as you can. He was like, I didn't know anything about cars. He's like, but by the time I was done with Ford versus Ferrari, I was a fucking master, you know? And so he throws himself into things like they're a school project and has fun with it. Like, what a cool motherfucking job, you know, to just treat it that way. Like, it's literally just this art that I'm gonna go at this as hard as I can. It's not this thing I've been thinking about since I was 15. It's this thing I've been thinking about right now. This is what I'm passionate about right now. And he was passionate about remaking a Western from 1957, 50 years later, at 3:10 to Yuma. So, God, that's a great movie. I've been, every now and again, I want to watch 3:10 to Yuma. It's one of those movies that just kind of still is in the back of my mind all the time. So that's a great pick. I thought about it for sure. There's another Western that I thought about, an older one, that kind of reminds me of 3:10 to Yuma. So maybe I'll talk about that one later, but it's not my top 5. But it has some of the best, I'll call, train station film scenes of all time. So yeah, maybe we'll talk about that one at the end. All right. So your number 3 is 3:10 to Yuma. Mine's Snowpiercer. Let's go to your number 2.
Okay. My number 2 was a last minute addition because I remembered, oh wait, that movie has an epic train scene. And it's 1963's From Russia with Love.
Yeah, I was like, this has to be here. Yeah, you gotta have, come on.
I had a moment of like, wait a minute. Yeah, the whole last half of the movie is you know, getting out of Russia. And yeah, this Bond, it's the second James Bond film. He's sent to Soviet Russia to get a hold of a decoding machine that is allegedly being given to him by a defecting Soviet agent named Tatiana Romanova. However, Spectre is actually behind all this because they want revenge on Bond for killing Dr. No in the previous movie. As you can tell, I'm very obsessed with this franchise.
Yes.
And in the last half of the movie, Spectre agent Donald Grant, played by Robert Shaw, is on the train with Bond and Tatiana, and he has disguised himself as a MI6 agent who's there to help Bond apprehend the bad guy and get home. Really, he's there to kill them. And on this train, you know, they have dinner and they're talking, and all of a sudden the guy orders red wine with fish, and Bond is like, hold on a second. No self-respecting British agent would ever drink red wine with fish. And that's just how Bond realizes this guy is not who he says he is. It's ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. And Grant doesn't even try to fight it. He's like, well done, Mr. Bond. You've seen through my disguise. And then they have this epic fight. And it's in this train. It's very tight quarters. These two evenly matched agents of, opposing force. And this is so epic to see Sean Connery and Robert Shaw fight each other on a train with gadgets and a woman's life at stake. It's fucking awesome. From Russia with Love is one of the best Bond films in the entire run, and just an awesome movie.
Yeah, great pick, man. This just makes sense for you, to have. When I was doing just kind of a general, okay, let me make sure I haven't missed any train movies that I really like. I went on fucking Wikipedia and just looked up train movies, and there's like 300 movies that are listed that have either a huge train scene or the movie takes place on a train. And I saw that and I was like, okay, surely we'll be talking about fucking James Bond this weekend. Great, yeah, good pick. So that's your number 2, man. I'm curious what your number 1 is. Fuck. My 2 and 1 are just they're almost like cheap. It's like, fuck you, Austin. You talk about these people all the time. My number 2 is a movie I talked about last week. Last week we did a top 5 1998 movies, and I talked about Rushmore. Well, this week let's talk about feeling.
Do it.
It absolutely has to be. It was close to being my number 1. It probably is my number 1's kind of cheeky, a little bit different. Has like a major scene that's on a train. This movie takes place on a train. Darjeeling is, at the very beginning, we are with Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, and Jason Schwartzman on a train as Bill Murray's trying to chase it down, and you're already kind of like, oh, disillusioned and quirky Wes Anderson stuff. And then the movie starts, and they're brothers, these 3 guys, Peter, Jack, and Francis, and they just start taking drugs, and they start drinking, and they start smoking a lot of cigarettes, and they're on this journey because they're realizing as they get older, we're not really close. We need to bond with one another. And I love that. I love this idea. I love the way it's executed so much. I love these 3 actors pitted together. It's such a unique trio. Brody, who's this kind of out there, I've won an Oscar type actor, to Owen Wilson, who's like, I just did Old School, or sorry, Luke Wilson did Old School. Owen Wilson's Wedding Crashers. He's one of those guys who's just in those like kind of silly comedies. And Schwartzman, I adore that guy. Huge fan. I shit on TV a lot, but he is in a TV show that I really do like with Zach Galifianakis and Ted Danson called Bored to Death, and that's one of my favorite things he's ever done. And along with Darjeeling, I love Schwartzman so much. And Rushmore obviously is a movie that impacted me a lot. Talked about it last week. I don't really have, when it comes to Anderson's movies, I think I said this kind of a similar thing to this last week, but it's just kind of like, they're just like in my DNA. They're just a part of who I am, and I'm willing to kind of take that on, because I've heard people be like, "What? His movies suck. They're all gimmicky and whatnot." Like, I just don't care. I just don't. I'm all about the artsy fartsy shit where everything's symmetrical and everything looks in its own specific place. I love all that stuff. Angelica Houston out of nowhere in this movie, fucking amazing as their mom. She's so great. The scene where they wind up saving someone's life in that river is really cool, where they're like, oh my God, we actually can have a purpose. They're like, we're not all just shitheads, we're not just like always on drugs. Like we can actually do something. And then the biggest thing that this movie does for me is I've always seen myself as Jason Schwartzman in this movie, and my 2 older brothers as Owen Wilson and as Adrian Brody. There's like this thing between us that, no matter what happens, we're going to stick up for each other, even if we're like pissed off or like don't technically agree with what the other person's saying or doing. It's just like, I have your back type thing. And I've always connected with movies that do that have brothers that are kind of together. And me and my older brothers are really close, and these guys clearly like don't know each other. They're kind of like disillusioned and trying to kind of form that bond as they get older. But there is that intangible thing that we're brothers, and if someone steps to that to my brother, then I'm stepping to them too. Like that scene when that guy gets out of the truck and like wants to fight, and Owen Wilson's like, get back in that fucking car, just screams at him. Like it's that I don't even know what's going on, but fuck you, back off my brother. It's that like me and my brothers have that. Even my younger brother too, Isaiah. All four of us have that thing for us. We always have. And so when movies portray that, it just kind of breaks me. So Darjeeling's great. Love this movie. I quoted a lot with people who know it. I have some friends who are big into this movie, and that's always fun. And it has to be here. I could go on and on, so I'll stop rambling.
Yeah, Darjeeling's a good one. When I marathoned all of Wes Anderson's films for the French Dispatch episode that didn't happen, Darjeeling was my the last one I watched, and it was just a wild movie, a very entertaining, whimsical, vibrant film. And as always with him, I just get sucked in and get lost for a little bit.
Yeah,
and I love that. Any director who can just like make me turn off the rest of my life for a couple of hours is a hell of a filmmaker. And yeah, nothing but respect. I knew this was the guarantee. I knew this was going to be here, and I'm glad.
Yeah, it's neat to be able to talk about Anderson's movies through these top fives back-to-back weeks. That wasn't planned or anything, but I guess it was because I'm the one who's coming up with the top fives. Fuck it, anytime I get to talk about Rushmore and Darjeeling back-to-back, who knows? Maybe next week I'll talk about fucking Bottle Rocket, or you never know what I'll fucking slip in.
Yeah, indeed. I was certain that was going to be your number one. Now I'm like,
if we're talking about pure train movies, it is. But like my number one's kind of like I said, a little bit cheeky, a little bit different. It has a major scene on a train.
Okay.
It's just a movie I want to fucking talk about, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Anyways, your number two is a Bond movie. My number two is a Wes Anderson movie. What's your number one?
Okay. So I love number two I think is a better movie, a more fun, exciting personal pick. Number one, I think, is the definitive train movie that I've seen. The entire movie takes place on a train. It is the ultimate whodunit. 1974's Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah. Should have known. Should have known.
Yeah. It's Albert Finney as Agatha Christie's iconic sleuth Hercule Poirot, who ends up on the Orient Express the same time at a grisly murder happens. And he is then recruited to solve the murder before the train can get going from the rock slide it got trapped in. So he has a limited amount of time to solve this murder. And we meet all these, conspicuous characters played by actors like Ingrid Bergman and Lauren Bacall and Sean Connery and Anthony Perkins. And it's an amazing cast in 1974. And just a fun movie with a very satisfying conclusion where you're like, oh shit, this makes perfect sense. And the pieces that get laid out along the film are so genius. And it's such a delight to watch Albert Finney as Poirot. He just really commits. And it's the first movie I think of when I think of train films. It's, the Orient Express, such a significant, vibrant piece of like 20th century, early 20th century culture. And still, you can actually still do it. The Orient Express is still a thing. You can get on the Orient Express and take a trip through Asia, which would actually be pretty fun. Yeah. This was always going to be my number one. I think this is one of the most important and substantial train movies ever made. And the remake does not do it justice.
Yeah, well said about that. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I should have known this is going to be on yours. It's an absolute classic, a movie we definitely will cover. We've talked about it briefly on a couple different episodes. I want to say when we did the Gaslight episode, we were Ingrid Bergman, we talked about this movie. And then I think when we did Chinatown, we probably talked about this movie a little bit from 1974. But it would be cool to kind of just straight up cover it on this show. It's been a while since I've seen it. So yeah, it's a great pick. It is the definitive, Hollywood good quality movie that takes place on a train. So I have no problem with that. So So all your movies are like feature trains pretty heavy. What was, because you got Snowpiercer, you got The Bond, you got Murder. What was your number 5?
Polar Express.
Yeah. Well, and what's your number 3?
310 to Yuma.
Okay, so that one's the one that I would say is like least involving a train necessarily, but big stuff happens around trains.
Yeah, and then From Russia with Love, not more about it's a Bond movie first. It's an action movie, and the train sequence is big, but it wouldn't say it's a movie that really is like train centric.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I definitely cheated more than you did.
That's true.
Because I got Planes, Trains, and then I got 3 train movies in a row: Unstoppable, Snowpiercer, Darjeeling. My number 1 is Richard Linklater's 1995 classic Before Sunrise, which of course opens up on a train and is one of my favorite openings to any movie because it involves my favorite things about Linklater. It involves Ethan Hawke just being a fucking douchebag and just going for it in this movie. He's charming, but he's a douche. He's like, Ethan Hawke is so goddamn good at that. And Linklater uses him so well to be this kind of this guy that thinks he's just above it all and is quoting, I'm quoting, authors from centuries ago. So I'm a fucking, literary genius. And Ethan Hawke is so good at that while also being like, I kind of like this guy. Like he teeters on that so well. And the opening of this movie, of course, is him deciding to go talk to this girl he sees. And he's like, I have to talk to you. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't, and Linklater is so good, especially in the 90s, Slacker and Dazed and Confused and before, and then going on to the 2000s with, Waking Life, Tape, these movies that deal with that existential moment of what if I would have gone that way? Or what if I would have done nothing? What if I wouldn't have said anything? It's these different paths of life that we take. We literally make decisions over and over and over that affect like who we are and what we do and what we're about. And Linklater is the best at that, in my opinion, of just kind of putting that in the forefront and making a story out of it. Not just kind of doing this for like ideas sake, but making an actual plot, an actual cool love story happen after it. And so that scene on that train at the beginning, and then of course at the end of the movie, we see them again departing, and he's like, let's not exchange contact. Let's just meet here 6 months from now. Like, oh my God. And then what's to come, the next 2 movies is like, oh my God, this is one of the best trilogies ever. I had to bring this movie up because that scene is like so huge. I remember when I first watched this movie, I paused it and I was like, I feel like I'm about to watch one of my favorite movies of all time. And what a cool feeling, when you're in the midst of something that's gonna like be with you until you die. And that's what Before Sunrise is. I adore that movie, and that opening scene is so huge to what happens afterwards, of course, in the film, but also just kind of representing Linklater as a director. And I feel like it's a good way to kind of link people to seeking out the Criterion Collection. Right now has this amazing Richard Linklater fucking collection. And if you really want to dig into the guy's work and really get to know what he's about, I would suggest going on there and just kind of having some fun with these different movies that are on there. These different, there's a documentary about him that's on there. So I think he's so important to independent filmmaking and just being free with his ideas and not being scared of, this isn't going to look right, or it's not going to, I love guys like Tony Scott and Tarantino and these freaks who are like, everything has to look correct. And Linklater's like, fuck it. Let's just have fun. Let's just make a movie, have some fun, throw some ideas out there. And I love that about him. I think he's a guy I would want to work for, so had to have this movie in there just because of that scene. But yeah, I mean, now that we've done this, I think it's safe to talk about some movies. Once Upon a Time in the West. I mean, that movie, I thought about putting it on my list. it's better than any movie I have on my list, like by a ways. It's an absolute, classic, undisputed. Doesn't really matter what your taste is. That's an amazing movie. North by Northwest, same thing. I think those movies, Strangers on a Train, I know, fucking Hitchcock is the king of The Lady Vanishes. These movies fucking rule, and Hitchcock is the king of the train. I don't have any of his movies on here just because I wanted to be a little bit more personal. I love these movies, but I wanted to be a little bit more personal and kind of have some fun with it. It's not this definitive fucking list. Train to Busan. Jesus Christ, talk about a good movie from the 2010s that's really tense, involving zombies and trains. The list goes on and on. This is like a really cool subgenre that's specific but also broad because it has so much shit to offer.
Strangers on a Train is the one I cut in favor of the Bond film. I had it there, and then I'm like, nah, who am I? Whose ass am I kissing here? Like, I love Strangers on a Train, but this is Bond. Like, that's me. This is me. I'm the real article. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't, I'm going to do what I got to do for me. I want, my influence to be put into these top 5. I don't want it to just be the same stuff everybody rehashes. I want these to be films that matter to me. Not that Strangers on a Train doesn't. I think it's a great film, but these 5 films matter more to me personally. Yeah.
Straight up, man. Straight up. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. Just random as fuck. And the most random top 5 you and I have done together for sure, where it's just like, why? There's no rhyme or reason. We're just going for it. So I'll recap mine real quick. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, 1987, John Hughes classic. Unstoppable, number 4, Tony Scott, fucking thriller. Number 3, Snowpiercer, Bong Joon-ho, genre bender movie that is so Bong Joon-ho it hurts. Number 2, Darjeeling Limited, Wes Anderson, train movie. And number 1, Before Sunrise, Linklater, essentially a love story. So yeah, first of a great trilogy. What's yours?
Well, first of all, I don't think you're cheating that much with Before Sunrise. The train sequences in that film are like essential to beginning and ending this like self-contained love story. I think that makes perfect sense.
It just like I know there's people out there who would be like their 5 would be North by Northwest, Strangers on a Train, Lady Vanishes, Once Upon a Time, like it would be these movies that are they're just these iconic, like groundbreaking movies. Like anyone would have their, top 5, but this feels more like you said, my DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Mine are number 5, The Polar Express, number 4, Snowpiercer, number 3, 3:10 to Yuma, number 2, From Russia with Love, and number 1, Murder on the Orient Express.
Beautiful. That was fun, man. So Unstoppable. That's your homework, my friend. You got to watch that movie.
Yes, that and Platoon, I promise.
Platoon will come. We're gonna do that this year. We're gonna do Platoon this year. I was looking at our schedule and I was like, you know what? I think there's gonna be a couple openings where we can go ahead and do 1986 and just get Platoon out of the way, so you don't have to force yourself to watch it like out of like, oh, I gotta get these fuckers off my back. You can wait to watch it for a proper Best Picture showdown. We will be doing that movie this year at some point. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
That's great. Shanghai Express, train movie. Where would you say is it somewhere like right outside your top 5, or is it like top 15?
It's
top
like
20.
It's like number 6 or 7. I thought like this is kind of the the predecessor. Like, I mean, you're like
exactly.
there's the great train robbery in 1903 if you really want to get historical with it, but this movie is like one of the earliest, train-centric films that I think, a lot of these films that we've mentioned probably owe something to. So I think it would definitely make the top 10.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it would also be, maybe 7, 8, 9. I don't know, but it would probably be in there if I really honed in and was picking like important train movies. Because it's like you said. Yeah, I love that you pointed out that movie from 1903, because that is important. That's over 100 years ago, and it's still being homage is still being paid to it, if you will. And that's so fucking cool. I love that about movies. I love this like cinematic line that you can always trace it back to something, and that's such a neat thing. And I think Shanghai Express is really important to a lot of the films we're just kind of mentioning and talking about. And yeah, it's not only important. I liked it. It was fun. It was a good movie, good performances, and I'm excited to talk about like what we liked most about it with our awards. You know, we have the Tarantino Award for Best Quote, the Ennio Morricone Award for Best Music Moment. We have the Philip Seymour Hoffman for the best performance of the movie, which I think there's like a handful that could be up here. We have finally the Roger Deakins Award for the best scene of the movie. So, which also I think there's a few scenes that are like quite powerful. And I had a hard time. I kind of flipped back and forth today going through different stuff. So I'll let you start with your Tarantino when you're ready. We'll get this thing underway, and then after that we'll talk about some Fifth Academy Award stuff.
Sounds good. My line comes from Henry Chang.
Yes,
our bad guy. Before you know that he's the mole on the train manipulating the events of all this, it's when the cow stops the train, and he just turns to somebody, I don't remember who it was, and says, "You're in China now, sir, where time and life have no value." Like, Jesus, that's ominous. And then he turned out to be the bad guy, and I'm like, oh, of course he thinks that he's in the middle of a revolution where he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Like, that was good.
That was really good. That was like such a great, just can you imagine writing that down and being like, fuck yeah. That was, yeah. There's sometimes where we talk about these screenplays, especially these older ones, where I just love putting myself in shoes of someone who's writing this, probably straight pen to paper, and thinking about that feeling that you get of, I just wrote down like a couple cool, like really fucking good sentences. And that was one I thought about, man. I think that's such a good kind of bam, like, yeah. It's a movie's quote, it's one of those that, sure, it's not this insane big moment where it's like, welcome to Earth, bitch. It's like a fucking, it's a movie to get you from point A to point B. And I love that about it.
Yeah. And also, back then in the 30s, like you got to also think about how quickly screenwriters were churning this shit out. I mean, this was probably like the fourth or fifth script this guy had written that month. And I think to make something that stands out, in the conveyor belt process of early Hollywood, I think is like extra important.
Yeah, that's a good point. These people just, they churn shit out. If you look at these IMDb's of these people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, it's just like, good God. Like actors think that they're working now. I mean, good night. They would just go from like lot to lot to lot. Like, it's Tuesday. What am I doing today? It's fucking crazy.
Well, I think of like that scene in Mank when they're like workshopping with the new guy and they're all just throwing out random shit that pops into their head. Like that's the process. Back then you're just like, I don't know, Chinese warlord. Now you give me something. Train. All right. How about you? And then you just make it. Like that was how it worked. You were contracted to one studio and you were told like, you need to give me, X amount of scripts by this date, and then we'll make them. And then you write more scripts. It's unbelievable, man. Like it's amazing that actual art came out of that process.
Insane. Oh man. So good. So good. I love it. I love doing these old movies just because of, kind of where minds go, you're just taking yourself back 100 fucking years.
Oh, it's great. It combines, my two loves, film and history, into this crazy conversation we get to have.
Great stuff. I thought about the quote you chose just for like, if you're just going one liner from this movie, that's the quote. But there's this bit of dialogue between Henry Chan and Shanghai Lily, which is Shanghai Lily. What an iconic name. Where they're going back and forth, right? And Mr. Chang says, all the money in the world can't wipe out this insult to me. Shanghai Lily tries to shoot him. And then Mr. Chang says, you only had my interest before. Now you have my admiration. I could love a woman like you, which is, that's such a good line. And then Lily says, you made me an offer to leave with you. Does it still hold good? Mr. Chang, I wouldn't trust you from here to the door. What assurance have I? What assurance have I? You won't trick me. Shanghai Lily, I give you my word of honor. Mr. Chang, a man is a fool to trust any woman, but I believe a word of honor would mean something to you. Man, great shit. So good. I love lines like this, that you only had my interest before, now you have my admiration. You know, like same thing like in Django when Calvin Candy basically says the same shit. Yeah. I love lines like that where it's, you know, curiosity, attention, you know, that like those things are so powerful to put into movies. And when someone delivers it the right way, you get a great this between Lily and Chang. God, those performances are great, man. And everybody's kind of on, you know, and so it makes it work.
I nearly wrote down, I wouldn't trust you from here to the door. I nearly had that bit.
I love that. Yeah.
You just tried to kill me. Like, what are you? You really think we're going to have a contract now? Oh, God. What a evil bat. Like, Chang was such a monster in this movie. I was really surprised because that dude was known for playing a character called Charlie Chan, who is like a Asian detective. The dude's from Sweden, by the way. He's not Asian. But yeah, Charlie Chan was kind of his thing. So like he was known for playing, you know, this kind of noble character. And then here he is just ruthless as shit. And I love that. He was one of my favorites.
Yeah, good shit. Good shit from him. Yeah, you know, and of course nowadays, like, you know, roles like this, you know, people get just completely shit on and canceled and whatnot if they play somebody that's not. If an actor plays somebody that's like that's not the matching ethnicity or it doesn't make sense, people will just light you up and Twitter destroys you and stuff. This is 90 years ago. 1932 is a long fucking time ago, and it's not surprising. It's not like cool or whatever, but it's not surprising. And for like, I don't mind saying this, for what it's worth, it's a good performance. You know, it's a solid performance. It's not, maybe it's not politically correct, but he does a good job with what he's working with. He does a good job.
At least he's not doing some like offensive accent. Like then it'd be tough to watch, but at least, you know, he's doing what he's got. He's working with what he's got.
Exactly. Yeah. The Ennio Morricone Award. This one was probably the most difficult, just because, man, these old movies, they will sound similar to other movies. Sometimes they look similar, but especially with the scores and whatnot, they can feel repetitive, you know? I thought there were a couple of moments that were really good, but for the most part, I was like, I'm having a hard time kind of differentiating this from something else in the 30s, if you know what I mean.
Well, from the opening score of like that stereotypical like Chinese themed music, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
This is going to be rough.
God damn it.
Yeah. Thankfully, I was like, oh, okay, this is much better than I expected. But I did have a moment where I was like, that's nice. It's when Shanghai Lily and her friend are just hanging out, and she puts on some big band music on her record player, and that English lady shows up, and it's like, hey, you're women. You want to hang out? And they're like, sure, if you can handle our hanging out. And she's like, are you respectable? Shanghai Lily's like, well, what does that mean exactly? Like, how respectable are you? And like, she starts to understand that they're not, you know, her type of lady. And she's like, well, and storms out. But the music's playing throughout that scene. And I'm like, it's big band. It's showy. It represents them. And she's this infiltrator who's like trying to better them. And people keep doing that. People keep coming in to like save them. And they're like, fuck off. We don't need to be saved. Like, you do. Like, we're enjoying our lives. What are you doing? And yeah, I love that. I love that in 1932, there were female characters with that kind of mantra. And I'm like, this guy knew what he was doing. Like, Marlene Dietrich and Joseph von Sternberg worked well together. And I definitely want to see the rest of their films. Yeah,
they made 7 movies together. And that's you know, that's a good run. I'm with you. I've said that. I think we both said this plenty of times on Oscar Sunday, where it's this just kind of door opening podcast, this show that we're this journey that we're both on, where it's like, fuck, I really haven't seen anything. There's so much out there. There's so much from the past, you know. And if Shanghai Express is this good, what else did they do together? You know, or are the other six better? Who knows? Got to see it.
Are the other six like easier to get a hold of? Maybe.
Do I have to like randomly find it for $14.99 at Half Price Books? I hope not.
Should I just bite the bullet and buy the like $60 Criterion collection of all of their films and just have that? Like, should I just do that? I'm starting to think like maybe I should.
Yeah. Oh, you know, I think Joseph von Sternberg is a guy I just need to kind of study anyway. You know, he's a guy I haven't really gone into, so I'm excited for what this movie's given us just from that standpoint. It's not only a good movie, but makes you curious about what else these people have done, and that's great. That was a great pick. That was a great pick for the Ennio. You know, kind of a needle drop moment where it also has this kind of interesting scene around it. I really like that. I went pretty basic here. I went with the end credits after Doc and Shanghai Lily, you know, they're kissing, and you have that really cool edit, which the cinematography just fucking gorgeous, and you have that really cool bit where they're fading kind of in and out, and then you see all the people, you know, going through the fucking, you know, train station there, and it's just kind of this big. It's pretty typical for this era, but it's this kind of big, beautiful piece playing from there to the credits. You know, we start seeing the cast names and stuff, and all that jazz. So, what that did for me was it made me smile. Like when the movie ended, I was sitting in my room, it's fucking pitch black in my room, except for the TV, you know, shining bright, and I looked at the movie, I looked at the screen, I listened to what was happening, I smiled. I looked at the fucking, you know, region-free DVD player that you gave me. I looked at the case of Shanghai Express, and I was like, I love this shit. I love movies. I'll do anything to watch something that might affect me and might be good and might entertain me. I'll kind of do anything. It doesn't matter, you know, what it takes. And I know you're the same way. So it was kind of this moment of, I bet Connor had this moment too when he was watching it, where he was like, fuck yeah, it was actually a pretty good movie. And that's one of the coolest things about this show, is just the journey that I get to be on with you as a friend and as a like fellow cinephile who just fucking inhales this stuff. So it just made me feel good that like the ending score for the credits and the final scene of the movie just made me feel fucking good. So I had to choose it.
Oh yeah, man, I'm honored. Yes, this journey is so much fun. I love when we find these like untapped pockets. I feel like, you know, Daniel Plainview digging a well. Like, I'm gonna find, you know, I found the black gold, and here we are. Now I get to explore. It's wonderful.
That's exactly right, my friend. Yeah, great stuff. I love it. This next award is the one I'm most curious about for both of us. The Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. I think there's probably like 4 ways you could go here.
Yeah, there are. There's a lot of really good performances in this. But one of them, I just really liked the character. Clive Brooke as Captain Harvey.
Good pick.
He was just so uncompromising in his like morals, and was just so hurt by Lily, and never let it, like, he constantly let it be known. I love his random sarcastic barbs at everybody, and just, you know, how much he was willing to give up for her, but he didn't want her to know, and she was the same way, and they were just so made for each other, but refused to like admit it. They were such stubborn assholes in the best way. And I just thought Clive Brooke did a really good job selling that, and I liked him. He reminded me of so many other heroes in other films. Like, there was a Han Solo quality to this dude, or I was like, I would follow this guy into battle. Yeah, I thought he was hilarious and very endearing.
That's a good way of putting it. I felt similarly about him. Like, he has some Harrison Ford in him. That Clive Brooke. He's got some of the, some of that juice that like great actors have. That there's a gravitas, but there's also kind of like a smooth handsomeness to it. It's like Richard Gere, these dudes that just have that look. Ford's definitely at the top of that list. So yeah, that makes sense. I liked his performance a lot. I initially wrote down Anime Wong for my PSH, but as the movie just kind of started ending, and Marlene Dietrich just, God, when you talk about old Hollywood stars, these people who just have the it quality, and Marlene like totally has it in fucking spades. The costume she wears, how she pulls them off when she's like smoking a cigarette, this beautiful black and white cinematography is just breathtaking. And I could watch Shanghai Lily all day. He wasn't talking, she just has that quality. So I just kind of went with the obvious here. I think Marlene is an absolute fucking dynamite performer, and I need to watch more of her movies. She's got something that I really respect from that era specifically. It must have been so difficult, and I'm sure it still is. We know it still is, and has been for this craft, the history of this industry of movie making. It's always got to be hard for women to be in a male dominated field, and I always respect when someone just kind of has that fuck you in them, and Marlene has it. She has that kind of like, fuck you, I'm fucking so talented, it's oozing out of me and I can't help it. Like I have that it factor. And so I went with her. It's just one of those classic performances that I can't get enough of. It was like watching Olivia de Havilland in The Heiress, or Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice. Just like, dude, they're just freaks of nature. Like these people are just, they can't help it. And so I had to go with her. But man, I mean, Clive Brooks great. Like I said, Anime Wong is amazing in this movie. Warner, is it Oland?
I think it's Oland, yeah.
Oland, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he's great for what he's working with. Eugene Pallett, Sam Salt, he's great. Lawrence Grant as Mr. Carmichael, I liked that performance a lot. This is a good movie. As far as the ensemble goes, well done.
Carmichael especially I thought was interesting because at first I'm like, oh, this guy, fuck this guy. He's here to save souls. And at the end, he's like, she's worth more than $1 million to you. It's like, oh, right on, Carmichael. Way to see, faith and love. Goddamn. Like I was rooting for, I'm like, yes. It's cool how this movie's like, a love story with the Chinese Civil War, like sandwiched between it, but it works.
Yeah. As like a backdrop. Like what?
Yeah. Crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah, but Marlene Dietrich, I'm glad you picked her. She's the star of this film, and the character of Shanghai Lily very much could have been, just written off as another kind of soulless sex symbol. But she brought humanity to this character and really made you root for her. And you see, what she's hiding, what she's running from in just her eyes. She was such a talented actress, and I love the way she portrayed Shanghai Lily.
Yeah,
I'm glad one of us picked her.
Yeah, Marlene and Clive Brooke, man, they're both going for it in this movie, and it's cool stuff between them two. Good chemistry. All right, we're at our Deacons. The best scene in the movie. What do you got?
I went with Chang's interrogations. Because that whole bit, you're as clueless as they are. You're like, what is he looking for? Like, why are we doing this? Like, why is he talking to us? And as he keeps talking to people and he reveals to, I think it was Clive Brooke, where he's like, I'm looking for one of you who's worth taking as a hostage. And you're just like, shit, what happens next? And you're just learning like who Chang really is and what his goals are and how, he's infatuated with Shanghai Lily and how that's clearly going to come into play. It's just such a significant moment and so tense. I was floored.
Yeah. I basically have the same thing. It's for me, it's like you said, it's the character development that makes this movie. It's not so much just a tidbit from the movie. It's this kind of character altering moment of, okay, there's someone who's controlling what's happening. There's someone who's genuinely evil on this journey. And fuck, that's like a good little twist that I don't think it's so easy to do within an hour and 20 minutes. You know, like this movie, this movie introduces you to a lot of characters right away, and then like progresses fast, and then gives you this twist of, oh, Chang's actually like an evil son of a bitch, and like he needs to be taken down. You know, that kind of thing. I love that scene, and I love when Chang is killed.
Yeah.
Fucking so cool. Talk about fucking with the code, right? Fucking pre-code stuff where it's like we can't show certain things. We're still gonna make it kind of ambiguous, but also kind of thrilling. And I love that shit. I love it so much. I love when Doc kind of realizes what's going on, and he's like, "Oh, I got to go get Shanghai Lily out of here, man!" Like, you know, she's there. You know, she's fucked right now if I don't go save her. So, and then Doc doesn't quite know exactly. You know, he doesn't know everything that's going on. It's so cool. It's a great kind of mind game.
I love when they're all just standing outside waiting for the train to go, and Anna May Wong walks out and is like, "Better get your friend. I just killed Chang." Like matter of factly, and then walks to the train, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's like, shit, you just ended the Chinese Revolution. Like,
yeah, and anime Wong, talk about subtlety. You know, she comes out and is like, "Yeah, I just killed this freak. You know, I just destroyed him." So, and then you have that really cool. I can't remember exactly what the line is. You have that really cool bit of dialogue between Shanghai Lily and Anime Wong, between them two, where, what do they say? It's like a really cool bit where she's like, I don't know whether to be grateful or not. She says, fuck, what does she say? It's such a cool bit. She's like talking about how his death cancels any debt. Such a cool little bit.
All right, I'm gonna go on IMDb, see if I can find it in the quotes.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. It's got to be one of the quotes that's on that fucking IMDb thing. Oh, here it is. I don't know if I ought to be grateful to you or not. And then she says, "It's of no consequence. I didn't do it for you. Death canceled his debt to me." Fuck yeah. that's a Tarantino type line.
Oh my God. Yeah, this movie is like, I feel like this is one of the movies that like the Hayes people watched and were like, all right, we need to do something about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could see this movie being evidence of like, this is why we need a code.
Yeah.
Women are getting ideas.
They're not punching us in the face, but they're kind of poking us. Yeah. Yeah. So good. Oh yeah, I love it. I adore that stuff. But yeah, I do think the Pierre Deacons, like the best, most thrilling part of the movie is when you're finding out what Chang's all about, and you're like, wait, what? Like,
because you're not really paying attention to that. Like you're paying attention to the love story, but the Chinese Revolution stuff is happening all around this. And then when it takes center stage, you're floored. You're like, oh shit, we just turned left and now we're trapped here. And Chang just reveals like, yeah, I'm the head of the revolution and all of you people are at my mercy. So you better start kissing some feet. It's like, shit, what happened? Yeah, it's a great bait and switch that I was not expecting. And I love that a movie from 1932 gave me that reaction of like, oh shit, this is a different movie now. Let's settle in.
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Buckle up. Yeah, great feeling. Oh, that's the best. Ah, man, I love when a movie does this to us. I think we're both just kind of excited that we both kind of felt the way we did about it and had all these, you know, fun things to say about these awards. So had a blast as always doing these, you know, doing the, you know, best bit of screenplay, best quote, whatever, best music moment, best performance, and best scene. So much fun. I don't think this will ever go away on Oscar Sunday. We're just always going to give out awards to the movie, and for this reason, you know. But you know, this movie was up for 3 Oscars, and you know, while we haven't seen a bunch of shit from, you know, 1932, 1931, 1932. I do want to look at these, you know, these categories, look at what Shanghai Express did at the Oscars, because it did win Best Cinematography, which is one of the best aspects of the movie. So I'm totally okay with that. But it's also fun to kind of make fun of these old ceremonies just because they're so fucking ridiculous. So let's start with, since we haven't really seen a lot of this stuff, let's just get there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 categories. There's 24 now. Yeah, there's double that after 90 years. We have the famous outstanding production, which is best picture now, best director, best actor, best actress, best original story, best adaptation, adaptation, best art direction, best cinematography, best sound recording, best short subject, comma, cartoon, the fuck, best live action short subject, comedy, best live action short subject, novelty. Like, what the fuck is all this? You know, there's no supporting actor or supporting actress. But best original story and best adaptation is basically, you know, original screenplay, adapted screenplay. Okay. There's no score, you know, yet. There's no best original score. Just fucking weird. Like, it's just so weird. And then to have 3 short subject categories is bonkers for 19th cartoon, comedy, and novelty. Just amazing. Just looking at these is always incredible. This is the 5th Academy Awards. They clearly didn't know what they were doing yet. It was just a way for, you know, our good buddy Louis B. Mayer to just kind of, you know, stroke everybody. So
best live action novelty makes me think they were giving out like Oscars for like best cigarette commercial or some shit like that. Like what's in there?
I don't know.
And then I love this Academy Honorary Award to Walt Disney for the creation of Mickey Mouse. Like, Mickey Mouse is awesome. Give that man an Oscar.
You know what? That Mickey Mouse guy kicks ass. Yeah.
That's hilarious. My God.
Oh, man.
I love the arbitrary number of like nominees per award. It's like sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 5. Best sound recording is all just studios. There's no people there. Like, now the winner was Paramount Public Studio Sound Department. It doesn't even say what movie it was for. That's crazy.
Pure insanity. Yeah. Pure insanity. So yeah, you know, if you dislike the Oscars now, be thankful that it's still not like this. You know,
there's a tie for best actor between Frederick March and Wallace Beery.
Amongst 3 performances,
which means one guy went home empty-handed.
One guy. Oh, and he's in a movie called The Actor.
Of course. I love that Wallace Beery wins for The Champ. He's like, yeah, of course, I won.
Yeah, his character's name, Champ. It's so good. I love it. I've actually heard The Champ is pretty good. I was gonna try to watch it just for fun. This is the year that Gran Hotel wins. Let's just fucking jump into it. Outstanding production, Gran Hotel wins. Aerosmith is also nominated. Bad Girl, The Champ, 5-star final, 1 Hour with You, Shanghai Express, and The Smiling Lieutenant. I've only heard of Gran Hotel and The Champ. I haven't really heard of these other movies. Gran Hotel is always a movie I've wanted to see because it's one of 5. I think it's one of 5 movies that won Best Picture but wasn't up for Best Director. It's Argo, Green Book, Driving Miss Daisy. There's a couple others, but it's usually like this weird thing where it's like, oh, how if it's Best Picture winning, how is it not up for Best Director? That's very rare that happens.
Well, I mean, that's not exactly stellar company right there.
No, it's not. No. No.
I bought Grand Hotel and The Champ on a whim because I found them somewhere and I'm like, we might cover this someday. So I got those are some just in casers that I picked up.
Yeah, well, one day we'll try our hardest to do a Best Picture showdown with this year. One day it will happen. I'm not counting down the days or anything, but one day on this podcast, because I don't ever intend on stopping, it'll happen. Best Director, 3 movies. Have you heard of Bad Girl? Have you watched Bad Girl?
I have not. I have only seen from this. I've only seen Shanghai Express from this show. I want to see Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde very much.
Yes. Yeah, that's Mr. Frederick March, who's like when it comes to statistically with Oscars, he's got a lot of shit going for him. So I'd love to see that movie as well. Bad Girl, The Champ, and Shanghai Express. There's only 3 movies for Best Director. Just crazy. Like, there on any given year that I'm like confident about, basically from like 1970 to now, I feel like I could come up with 10 directors who deserve to get a shout, and the fact that 1932, and I did some research, like over 100 movies came out that year that were technically eligible. 3? Surely there were a couple other movies that could have thrown in there.
I feel like eligible in the 1930s was like, did you slip Louis B. Mayer an envelope full of cash?
True.
Then you get your statue. So I
That's
don't know
fair.
how. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the voting process was a lot less stringent back then.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, Louis kind of a monster when it comes to this stuff. He's a huge reason why we can even do this show, but whatever. Best cinematography, Shanghai Express wins. Aerosmith and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Shanghai Express, Lee Garms won for best cinematography, but apparently, from what I've read from a bunch of accounts from Marlene and these other actors we've been talking about, Anna May Wong and all these people, said that it was really Joseph von Sternberg who was like doing all that stuff behind the camera. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of what the accounts are of like, yeah, this guy was credited for cinematography and did some work behind the camera, but Joseph was really the genius of this entire movie.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I think, there's some control freak directors who are like, my film, my camera, and then the cinematographer just slaps his name on there because it's some union thing. I'm sure that happens a lot.
Yeah, which, whatever. If you're trying to get a job, I guess I understand. But that's my favorite. I love the performances in this movie, but outside of that, the way it looks for 1932, it just stands out. It just stands out so much. It is a gorgeous film. The close-ups of Marlene are like breathtaking, and it's like what it's all about with old Hollywood. So I'm totally okay with a movie like this winning cinematography. Sometimes the Oscars have no idea what they're talking about with this category. It's probably become my favorite non-Big Five category, cinematography, over doing this show, where it's just like, man, the importance of how a movie looks and how we're, how it kind of just fucks with who we are as audience members. I'm obsessed with it. So I love the performance categories. I love that, the screenplay, the directing, the best picture, but cinematography is right up there, and score.
Yeah, score is mine. I'm a sucker for a good score. I've said it often on this show, like a good score can make or break a film. And I think it's weird that people don't consider that a major category. They should. But cinematography definitely, I've learned a lot about cinematography doing this show, and I like that. A lot of the so-called lesser categories I've learned a lot about them and how to judge them, which has been really cool. Like, I get film editing, sound design, like I can understand where that comes from now.
Mm. Yeah. The so-called lesser known. I love that. Yeah, people look at it that way. Without the score, without music, like, we don't have movies. Most movies before everything that we know movies to be now were silent films with music. Oh. There's no talking, and there's no dialogue. It's like subtitles and music and people running around. And what the fuck do you want? It takes a movie as special as No Country for Old Men to like not use music, to where it's kind of its own character. Like, oh, look how fucking different this is. Like, as much as I care about movies, as much as I love this art form, music is way more important and like way bigger to our emotions and plays way more into. Imagine the first 15 minutes of There Will Be Blood without the score. We'd be like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why am I watching this guy? But because we have that kind of like unsettling sound of Johnny Greenwood, you're like, this is fucking cool as shit, and I love movies, but music is greater than movies. That's just always going to be the case.
Well, like, in There Will Be Blood's instance, without the music, you're just kind of watching a dude dig a hole. But with the music, you're watching this, you're like, oh, I'm watching this guy lose his mind. Like, this guy, whatever's going on here, he's clearly unhinged. The music's telling me that this guy has screw loose and it's getting worse. Like now I'm intrigued. Now I'm invested. I want to see what happens to this guy.
Yeah. I'll take it even further with Paul Thomas. What if at the beginning of Boogie Nights, there's no music playing and we're just watching these people run around a fucking club and we're like, what are they doing? These jackasses are moving to what? You know, but best of my love is playing. And so, you know, it's great.
Without the music, Boogie Nights is like a weird, like sexual sadist film. Like you need the music to remind you like, hey, this is supposed to be kind of lighthearted sometimes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like this is dark.
Yes. You need music to suck you in, pull you out, like all these different emotions that it like forces your hand. And that's the best thing. So yeah, score is without a doubt one of the most important categories. There's no way to say the best actor category is more important than a best original score category. No way. Like there's no way you do that. Without music, then you know, what is Tom Cruise doing? You know, like what are these people doing? What are these people doing if they don't have music to move by?
Well, it's, you know, it's I know it's, you know, corny, but it's like a clock. You know, you need all the pieces working together for this project to actually work. And filmmaking is very much, you know, an ensemble piece of work. Like you need every bit. The caterer has to provide pretty decent food for them to enjoy so they can be invigorated to do their work. Every piece matters.
Correct. Yeah, straight up, man. So yeah, I love having these conversations about what this stuff means to us, how important it is to us. And, you know, we always get to do that when we talk about these old movies, because the ceremony is always weird as fuck to look at, you know. But Shanghai Express, really good. It's piqued my interest in a lot of different things. You know, director, actors, different people. 1932, maybe check out some different movies from that ceremony. This is what it's all about. But next week, we're doing like a movie that I've been wanting to revisit that's more recent. Been wanting to revisit it for a long time, you know. It's something I think is special. I think this director, Alex Garland, is like really special. I think he hasn't had, like, I don't think they're complete successes, his movies so far, but I think he's important. I think he's going to do some really cool stuff as time goes on. You know, Ex Machina is a great movie. Annihilation, I really liked it, but I understand people who don't totally vibe with it. I'm really looking forward to Men next week. I think that movie is going to be awesome. I think Jessie Buckley is one of the best young stars we have right now. So next week on Oscar Sunday, we will be covering Ex Machina and the 88th Academy Awards. Super excited. 2015 is a year we have not done yet. So
really,
we have not covered 2015.
Wow.
I'm very excited. Shanghai Express, we did The Lighthouse recently. These are years we've never covered on the show. So it's like, I want to knock out these years, these ceremonies, by like picking movies that are obviously from that year. So Ex Machina, this just fit perfectly because Alex Garland has a new movie coming out, Men. We'll be covering that on next week's sneak preview. So we'll be doing like a double feature essentially of Ex Machina and Men. And I'm super excited, man. We're also going to do a top 5 again, of course. You know, that's what we got to do. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's probably going to be 2010's sci-fi movies. I think that's where we're going to go. I'm very much looking forward to it. But tomorrow we have a movie been getting shit on like crazy by all people alike. Firestarter, you know, Stephen King adaptation is back. You know, I think that was 1984, the first one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we just did that on Filmgazm, right? So for this new one that's out. So tomorrow's sneak preview will be covering that. On Wednesday, here's a good movie. Filmgazm will be covering Bronson. I love that movie. I think it's extremely underrated, and I think it's really cool that we're covering it. It's kind of Filmgazm to the core. And then Green Lantern on Friday, Beyond the Bad, Mr. Ryan Reynolds. That's right. That's 2011?
Yep.
2011. I remember seeing that, and then I don't remember anything about it. You know what I mean?
Same. I saw it at the movies, and I was like, all right. And then I've moved on. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah. I think I remember getting Wendy's that night. I think I remember that more than I remember the 2-hour film that I saw. like I said, Ex Machina and Men back to back next weekend for Oscar Sunday sneak preview. So super exciting stuff. This is gonna be a fun week. It's random as hell. It's all over the place. That's what we like to keep that way, keep it fresh. Got some really good shit coming up on this show as we approach our 2-year anniversary. We're going to be doing after Ex Machina. We're going to be doing one of my obviously movies of all time, and then we have our 2-year anniversary. Feels good, feels right. 2-year anniversary falls on a best picture, so can't wait to do that. Can't wait to reveal what it is. We're having a lot of fun here, man. You're doing school? You got your final grades, so what are you gonna be doing this summer? Are you gonna just be watching a shit ton of movies or what?
I'm gonna be making up for some lost time. I deliberately am avoiding doing anything else this summer, specifically so I can just dive into films and just turn my brain off for a few months, because I need a break. And I want to just pour all my energy into these shows and enjoy myself for a while. And I'm looking forward to
that. Good stuff, man. Well, hopefully we get some good summer movies, I'm looking forward to a few. I think, Lightyear, I think is going to be pretty fucking cool. I think in late June, The Black Phone and Elvis, that'll be an interesting weekend. Thor comes out in July. We got some good shit for you. Bullet Train, which looks like fun as fuck, comes out in, I believe, August. So yeah, we'll be having some fun.
Hell yeah, maybe that'll make our train list.
Yeah, I actually thought about that. I thought about, oh man, Brad Pitt on a train. Yeah, I think that could make my top 5. Yeah, man, this is a lot of fun. I always, I have a really good idea of, when we do fucking, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Really good idea of how things are going to go, and I kind of see the episode before it even begins and ends. But with Shanghai Express, I'm like, this is going to be fun as hell, because I have no idea where the conversation is going to go. It's been a blast doing this with you, man. And for our listeners, our fans, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Filmgazm, and look at filmgazm.com. Always have reviews up. Connor just wrote not too long ago, Doctor Strange. He wrote a Simple Plan review. We've got some articles and stuff on there. So, just keep checking us out, keep sticking with us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for Firestarter.